Project Green program. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the work that Project Green Fork is doing now to build a more sustainable food system in Memphis, and then share hopefully some best practices for you guys that could be helpful in the different spaces that you operate in. So I'm going to share my screen here. Oh, I also wanted to point out that Allie Manning and Leanne Edwards are on the call today. They're both on our Project Green Fork team. If you guys just want to say a quick hi or hello and wave, there you are. I just wanted to do, they're really out there doing the work in the community along with Steph, who's not on, but just to give them a shout out for the work they're doing. Okay, let me get this rolling. Okay, hopefully everybody can see this presentation, and I'm going to move you guys around so I can see what I'm doing. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay. So as I mentioned, Project Green Fork, we are working really to navigate this landscape for you guys today, navigating the landscape of the nonprofit solutions to combating food waste. So I wanted to kind of tee the conversation up with about the issue of food waste, and then we'll get into more specifics about some of the things we're doing and some things that nonprofits can do. Let's see. This is okay. Here we go. Okay. So probably I'm going to say 2018, we were approached by the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation because of the work we're doing in schools and Project Green Fork to take up the issue of food waste in Memphis and Shelby County. So you may be aware of some of this information already, but just to tee up the issue, every year in the United States, we grow and produce and spend about $260 billion on food that is never eaten. So we waste up to 40% of the food in the United States every year. It is a significant portion of what goes into our landfill. Food waste is increasing methane emissions. Each resident wastes about $456 a year. So it's also a significant economic impact in our community. So you have this waste, you have this environmental issue, and you have an economic issue related to this issue. Talk a little bit more about the environmental implications. Wasted food causes 58% of methane emissions. Methane gas is a powerful greenhouse gas that is released when food decomposes, and it's 80% more potent than carbon dioxide. Municipal landfills are the third largest source of methane emissions from human activity in the country. So food waste in landfills contributes more to methane emissions than any other landfill material. So this significant, it's such a significant environmental contributor that the UN has identified food waste as a significant lever to focus resources and attention on to combat climate. So in addition to this economic and also environmental issue, we have the issue of food insecurity. And I know there are many organizations across the state who work with people who are experiencing food insecurity. So we know 1 in 8 people in the United States face food insecurity, 1 in 9 in Tennessee, and we have a fairly significant poverty rate in Memphis. So we are 1 in 5 in Shelby County. So when you look at this surplus, this amazing amount of food that's been wasted, and you look at how many people are actually food insecure, it's how can we bridge these two issues to solve these problems? We had, after our connection with Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, we connected with a variety of partners, including the Natural Resources Defense Council. They were able to do an in-depth study of Memphis and Shelby County and analyze where we're losing food by sector, and also determine how much surplus, healthy, nutritious food is out there and available for rescue. So the graphic on the right represents an ambitious goal for us that if we could rescue the 5,000 tons of surplus, healthy, nutritious food every year in Memphis and Shelby County, we could close almost 20% of the meals gap in Memphis and Shelby County. So again, that loss of food it's perfectly healthy and nutritious food. It's being lost for a variety of reasons. So when we started working on this with our partners, we were connected to sort of the foundational strategy that the EPA has in place. So if you look at this graphic, food, like any other waste, the best way to address the issue is to not have waste to begin with, right? So we focus a lot of our efforts on our 901 Save the Food initiative on prevention. How are we working with individuals, businesses to look at the source reduction of food waste? So what we're buying, what it's packaged in, how do we store it? How do we serve it and use all of it so that none of it goes to waste? The second preferred strategy is to donate or upcycle. And this is, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but looking at our efforts of how we can rescue that 5,000 tons of surplus quality food instead of it being wasted. And when we talk about upcycling, that can mean a variety of things, but it could be using some of the ingredients to make stock. It could be using things that are sort of the ends of peppers that we tend to throw away that could actually be toppings. And a lot of that work we do with restaurants to eliminate some of the waste that they see. So if you continue down those strategies, anything that's not viable for human consumption can be created or can be transformed into something to feed animals. I'm sure most of you are familiar with composting. There are many operations across the state of Tennessee and in Memphis that are working to compost food scraps and blend those in with our regular sort of leaf and other type of organic waste to make a rich compost for our agricultural community. And then you move on to anaerobic digestion. And then the least thing you want to avoid is landfilling or putting anything down the drain. So this is really a solvable problem. Again, Natural Resources Defense Council estimated that we have 5,000 tons of rescue appropriate food in Memphis and Shelby County. So nationally, about 60% of surplus food ends in landfills. Only on a national scale, where only just 7.6% of edible food is currently being donated to individuals facing food insecurity. So you see all of this opportunity here to get this food. And more than 800,000 Tennesseans experience food insecurity. So this is a large opportunity for us, and it also has a significant economic impact when you look at how much money is spent every year to address this issue of food insecurity. Now, I always like to say here when we're talking about food rescue, we are not suggesting that food rescue is the single solution for food insecurity. Every community should have access to a grocery store, farmer's market, all of those things. But what we are suggesting is that more efficient management of resources can help address the meals gap. Right now, almost 20%. So it is about more efficient management of resources. There's enough food in the system for no one to be hungry, but we're wasting nearly half of it. So what is Project Green Fork doing? Project Green Fork started out as a restaurant sustainability certification, working with restaurants to take 6 steps to be more sustainable, which included things like composting, recycling, eliminating styrofoam, using green cleaning products. But when we began to look at this, the issue of food waste, we've expanded the reach and the programming mission of Project Green Fork to really focus on this issue of food waste. So we're really working to create a sustainable food system in Memphis by reducing food waste, connecting local partners, and promoting green dining practices. So some of the things we're doing, we're going to talk about each one of these individually, but looking at things like connecting people in event spaces with local food rescue partners so that surplus food gets into the hands of people who can use it. We're supporting restaurants and their efforts to become more sustainable, and we'll talk about some of the steps we're doing there. And then we're educating the community at large on the impact of food waste and simple strategies that you can do in your home to reduce food waste. In fact, in our homes is where we waste the largest portion of food. That's where the most significant loss occurs in our homes. We buy things and we don't shop our fridge or our pantry. We buy things we already have. We don't get to things. We're not eating leftover. There's a variety of things that happen and contribute to that. And our educational outreach goes to sort of focus on those pieces. So when we started this work, we worked to align local partners and establish a goal. We have a mayoral proclamation to reduce food waste in Memphis by 50% by 2030. That aligns with a national goal We brought together local partners, including the food bank and a variety of other people, to develop strategies in partnership with state and national partners like the Natural Resource Defense Council and Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. They have been really critical partners for us for technical support and guidance and best practices for strategies that have worked in other cities. And I know in Nashville and Knoxville, there are other organizations similar to ours working on these issues as well. And we are all in a regional cohort so that we can share best practices and strategies. We also have evaluated the needs of our local food rescue organizations. We conducted a landscape assessment in partnership with Innovate Memphis, which is another nonprofit here in Memphis that does research for this on behalf of the city. Understanding that we have this 5,000 tons of rescuable food, before we can build strategies to secure that food, we really wanted to understand our last mile organizations or people who work with people experiencing food insecurity. What is their capacity to receive this food? And so we conducted a landscape assessment to determine that what those capacity issues were. So let's dig in a little bit to food donation. This is one of our major strategies in the work to reduce food waste. Food donation plays a critical role in our effort to combat food waste and address food insecurity. We have been partnering with local businesses, restaurants, food retailers, and PGF restaurants for the donation of surplus food that would otherwise go to waste. This can happen in a restaurant, but if you think about it in places like in Memphis, we have the FedEx Forum where the Grizzlies play. They have a significant amount of surplus food after each game. Or the Renaissance Convention Center when they're hosting an event, a conference. They have significant, this is high quality food, baked chicken, vegetables. It has historically been thrown away. Now we're able to safely capture that food, package it, and move it to an organization that's working with people who experience food insecurity. So since January of 2022, when we started this work, our partner organizations have received approximately 50,000 pounds of wholesome rescued food. We were tracking all that manually, which is not the best way. So we have been looking, worked and looked for a lot of different ways to find an app, a software app to track, to do a more efficient job of tracking this food, how food's moving through the system. We settled on an app called Carrot as a donation software app that we launched in August of last year. It really didn't start rolling until about October. But since then, more than 8,000 pounds of rescued food have been accounted for through the Carrot app, allowing our partner organizations instant access to reporting and tax information. So what it allows them to do is they have an event, they have trays of chicken, green beans, whatever it is, they package it, they can photograph it, post it on the app. And we have spent significant time building critical relationships so that, the Renaissance Convention Center has one or two partners we strategically align them to based on the type of food that they have and the types of food that organization can use. They can post it on the app and it immediately notifies the donation partner so that they can make arrangements to pick it up. And then it tracks the pounds of donation for them. It gives them their tax information for tax reporting. It's also tracking the CO2 emissions. So we get the data, we can see how the food's moving through the system. And it's just a much more efficient way for us to manage this and have metrics to see if we're on point for our targets and our goals. Right now, since we launched that app, this 8,000 pounds contributes to about 15.5 tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by keeping that out of the landfill. We have 15 local organizations that are regularly donating to the last mile organizations. We have 8 LMOs serving approximately, almost 300,000 people annually receiving and distributing this additional food. When we had our landscape assessment to assess what's going on with our last mile organizations, many of them needed cold storage, they needed shelving, they needed a variety of things. So we were able to secure funding to make many grants to the last mile organizations to close some of those gaps for what they need. And we'll be doing another set of mini grants to those organizations this fall. We also work with the health department to develop a safe food donation brochure that's been distributed throughout 3,000 local restaurants. And we, again, with the health department, have quarterly safe food handlers classes that are offered to partners free of charge. just to make sure everyone is on, knows liability protection, but also knows how to safely package and so that food is moving through the system safely. So as I mentioned, Project Green Fork was originally a restaurant sustainability certification, and we were not looking as broadly as we are now at the food rescue landscape. So when we brought this work in, we wanted to figure out how can we incorporate the food rescue donation work into our existing sort of infrastructure with Project Green Fork. And again, leaning on our Natural Resource Defense Council partnership, they have a toolkit that guided us through creating a restaurant challenge. So we could sort of reintroduce ourselves to the restaurant and incorporate food donation into the work they were already doing. So we launched the 901 Save the Food Challenge as this collaborative initiative to raise additional awareness around food waste and empower restaurants to take action. We partnered with businesses to implement strategies to reduce waste, such as staff training, storage, produce storage methods, and repurposing surplus ingredients and food donation. I'd like to point out that Leanne on our team is a chef by training. She also worked in the hospitality industry for years in food systems and healthcare, and also most recently Memphis Shelby County Schools. So having that those eyes and that understanding has been a really big lift to our work to help make strategic recommendations back to our partners. By engaging participants and providing them with the resources and support, we are encouraging a culture of food waste reduction and creating a measurable impact by mitigating food waste. I think once people sort of see where they're losing food, it becomes very obvious and clear to them, and they are able to, even at that point, innovate and see other ways that they can contribute to improving the system. Since its initiation in 2023, we have 20 restaurants from 5 Memphis neighborhoods who've participated in the 901 Save the Food Restaurant Challenge. Allie does a lot of this work connecting with the restaurants and getting them on board. What our team, led by Leanne, does for these restaurants is we perform a snapshot food waste assessment. What that looks like is they hold their waste for a day. We pick it up, we bring it back to our location, and the waste is sorted, weighed, measured, and analyzed. And then we put together a report that goes back to them, including photographs. And it gives them real insight into where they're losing food. Is it knife skills? Are they using chicken to create stock but losing the meat? What are all of these things that they're doing that they can improve? We make those recommendations back to the restaurants, and then over a 30-day period, they implement those food waste reduction strategies, and then we follow up with another waste assessment to see where they are. It's been really successful. We decided to go with the neighborhood approach because we could go deeper on the training and investigation work with them, and we could also work in the surrounding communities to bring awareness to the issue of food waste in their homes, and also to support locally owned restaurants. And we just do a lot of social media work for these restaurants in the participation. We have this beautiful, fun, large green fork that we move from restaurant to restaurant and have a social media campaign of the Find the Fork campaign. So in addition to helping them reduce waste in their establishments, we're also trying to push people in the community to go and support these restaurants. So we collaborate with community partners to host events like Reharvest Memphis. This is sort of our educational outreach. Love Food Hate Waste Memphis is the local version of what's going on across the country, where we have an event and social media for an entire week looking at waste reduction strategies around food and food waste and composting donation. Reharvest Memphis is an event we created. It's an event that is modeled after an event in New York, and it's where chefs use rescued surplus ingredients. It's sort of like Chopped from the Food Network, and they have to come up with innovative and creative dishes from these surplus ingredients. It's really fun. And it's a great way to highlight the value and importance of food, and that it should be used up and not wasted. Our 901 Save the Food Challenge and our annual events really are to raise awareness about the food waste issues and promote sustainable food practices. We also feature culinary demonstrations, and even Leanne has done this before as a chef, and interactive activities, really to inspire people to evaluate their daily lives or maybe at work and how they can reduce food waste. Really, by fostering this dialogue and engagement around food waste prevention, we're encouraging community members to take practical steps toward waste reduction. It can be very small measures where collectively we can have a large impact. Our community-focused events at the end of the PGS or any of our events, we always do a zero waste event. And what that means is that we are diverting 90% of our waste away from landfills. So we control everything that happens in that event. We control what type of materials are being used. It's all compostable. We have a food donation plan for surplus food at our events, and we recycle and compost at those events. Achieving zero waste goals at our events really is a tangible impact that collective efforts can have on reducing waste and promoting eco-friendly practices. It's also an opportunity for us. We have these zero waste stations at each one of our events with fantastic signage so that's easy for people to understand. And we also have volunteers at those spaces, which provides a natural engagement opportunity for attendees to learn more about and so have the idea of zero waste being socialized to them. So that's a whole lot about what we've been doing. But what I wanted to talk about a little bit today, too, is what does this mean for other nonprofits across the state? Many nonprofits, I'm sure, in the network work with people who experience food insecurity. If not, I'm sure you host fundraising events or other events and have things going on in your office. So we wanted to talk about 4 quick little ways that we think as a team could benefit nonprofits across the state. How you can host more sustainable events, how you can look inward and have a green team that can reduce your environmental impacts, how you can always have a plan for surplus food, and you can educate your staff. These are all ways that we can collectively do good environmentally across the state. So in terms of hosting sustainable events, at a minimum, you can plan for food donation. You may not always have access to recycling and composting. If you do have local partners, we suggest that you do that. And we have guides on how to make an event zero waste that we're happy to share and coach on. In terms of food donation, I think if you can connect to your last mile organizations or shelters ahead of time and plan for that donation of excess food, that will take care of that. You just incorporate that into your event planning when you have a fundraiser or any type of community event. We provide clearly labeled, as I mentioned, recycling and compost bins. So when you're at an event, it's an education exposure, and it's very clear what you're supposed to do with the materials. We also work with local vendors who provide sustainable packaging and serving materials to minimize waste. Like I said, like with eco products, so that everything's compostable. We're not bringing in plastic forks, no styrofoam. You control over all that when you're setting up your event. And really, by sort of thinking through this on the front end, you can produce an eco-friendly event that sets a positive example for others to follow. All your attendees become someone that you've connected with and educated with, not only about your mission, but your mission is also aligned with climate and environmental stewardship goals. So if you're looking inward, how can you sort of we're a small organization, so I always laugh with the green team. That would probably only be 2 people on our team. But if you can look and get together a few people who are interested in this type of work, they can come up with creative ideas and initiatives to reduce waste inside your own office spaces. That could be as simple as eliminating styrofoam or single-use coffee cups from your coffee station. Everyone uses a mug or a reusable mug, or uses reusable water bottles as opposed to purchasing single use. There are a variety of ways. And when you get together and sort of analyze those things, you usually have 1 or 2 people on your team who can come up with innovative ways to foster teamwork and also build community within your office. Always, always, always have a plan for surplus food, whether it's at meetings. That can be the staff takes it home. That could be you give it to someone next door. It doesn't always have to be a last mile organization, but just understanding to prepare for that, depending on the scale of the event, is always a best practice. If you are an organization that has events and routinely have surplus food, we would encourage you to connect with a local agency that serves people experiencing food insecurity and just make it a routine practice to move that food to them when you have an event. Also, you can explore local composting options for your office. We have a local operation, the Compost Ferry, that we work with for that, and I know other operations across the state exist. This can just minimize your environmental footprint and contribute to a healthier planet. And then lastly, just educating your staff. Host a lunch and learn on food waste prevention for your staff. We do this for some of our corporate folks in Memphis. or for any other groups, we're happy to do that as well. You can invite a guest speaker. Like I said, there are other organizations across the state that are working on similar issues like this. So whether you're in Nashville or Chattanooga or Knoxville, you probably have someone like us that is working on this and would be happy to come and talk to your group about it. You can encourage your staff to actively participate and brainstorm ideas together. And then again, if you're in Memphis, we're of course happy to come and talk to you or host a lunch and learn, but we're of course happy to support efforts across the state as well. So really, our goal here is to create a sustainable food system for all, and it's really all of these things. We talk a lot in our organization about circular economy, where everything is in a circle, where you grow food, you use food, consume food, compost food, and that compost goes back in the earth to grow more food. Anything that gets outside of that circle is not healthy for our environment, and so that is the system that we are looking to build here locally. And we're just happy to share that work with you guys today, and also some tips maybe on how you can incorporate these things into your own practices. I am not Leanne Edwards, but Leanne is on the call and is our director of Project Green Fork, and of course would be more than happy to chat with anyone who is looking to get more information. And with that, I will close and be happy to take questions that Leanne, Allie, and I can answer. And again, thank you, Kate, for having us today to talk about this issue that's very important and close to our heart.
Thank you, Janet. We did have a couple of questions in the chat. Earlier, there was one just regarding how specific to Memphis and this area this information was going to be. And I think we got to where we discovered that it is definitely more of a statewide, and the statistics and the tools and tips that you shared with us for nonprofit organizations to combat the food waste issue was certainly spans the entire state and beyond. So I know that one was answered, and I'm wondering if anyone else has any other questions. Feel free to unmute and speak up.
And Kate, we're happy to share other partners we know across the state. If you're in a particular area, and we can share people we know across the state that might be from your area or close to your area that may have more regional type of information for you. But yes, happy to help.
Well, I had one question, or it just popped into my mind. I was wondering if y'all have a link or resource for maybe a recipes, using, like, for example, I know you can make pesto out of the cilantro and parsley stems and things that you might otherwise think that you just throw away.
Right.
Is there little recipe booklet or a resource for that? Usually I just kind of make stuff up as I go. I don't like to waste food.
Yeah, and Leanne, if you want to jump in here, but I think the first thing I would point you to is, yes, Leanne, she just dropped it in the chat, our savethefood.com. That's a national, right, Leanne? There are a ton of recipes and tips there. We also have a social media that is Project Green Fork. If you follow there, we're pushing out tips, but the savethefood.com is a national one. There are a lot of recipes and tips for using up all ingredients, shopping your fridge, how you store things, use the freezer as a pause button for different things like that. So yes, thank you, Leanne.
Wonderful. Well, if no one else has any other questions, we can carry on with our work day. I don't know about y'all, but I'm starving after listening to all this information about food. Need to make my lunch. So we thank y'all so much for being here. Janet, thank you so much.
Good, thank you.
Really appreciate the content that you've presented today, and I will be sending out follow-up information either later this afternoon or tomorrow with these resources, these links, and the video to the presentation. So we just appreciate y'all being here. And Janet, thank you again so much. And
thank you.
Leanne, thank you. And Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks so much.